Hello, Annie Bourke. I'm so happy to see you here. And thank you for coming to this interview that we'll be doing right now. You're an animal communicator that I met a couple of weeks ago. I find your work really interesting. You did an interview with me, so I'm doing an interview with you now. How are you today, Annie?
I'm great, thanks, and thank you for the opportunity to be interviewed by you. I'm
Oh,
intrigued with your work, so it's just lovely that we've have this common ground with our passion for animals and how they affect our lives.
yeah. All right. Are you ready for the questions?
hmm
Okay, the first question, Annie. You're an animal communicator. How did you get interested in this work and how did it develop?
Okay, so for as long as I can remember, I thought my cats could understand me, and I wish that I could understand them. And I actually used to say to them, I wish I could speak cat, because I could just tell that
Mhm,
they were trying to tell me something back again when I spoke with them, but I didn't know what it was. I knew they could understand me.
mhm.
And I had a little ginger girl cat, and sadly, she passed away after a very short illness. And it just made me feel as though I'd missed the opportunity to get to know her on a deeper level because I didn't know how to talk with her
Mm,
telepathically, which is how animals talk to each other, whether they're domestic or wild. So she's actually the one who inspired me to look for an animal communication course. And I found one online, and there was an image of the cat on the homepage who looked exactly like my cat. And I thought,
uh,
that's not a coincidence. This is a sign. This is what
mm,
I'm meant to be doing. And
mm,
so I started that over 13 years ago now. And I've
mhm,
spoken to her since because I'm also an animal medium, so I can connect with animal souls in spirit and have conversations.
mhm,
And so I said to her how I felt with missing that opportunity. She
mhm,
has no regrets. It was her life purpose to guide me to doing this work because she knew that this is my life purpose.
mhm,
And I can talk to her in spirit whenever I want to. She's appeared in meditations and dreams. I've been able to pick her up and hold her and feel her breathing and, maintain that physical connection with her, as well as being able to have the verbal conversations. So, when I first started the course, I had no idea how it worked and what I was going to be doing. I had two cats at the time who became my very patient teachers, and I've just kept learning since. They just keep teaching me so much different concepts about life and reality that I didn't know anything about. And
mhm,
they're so clever that they know how much information to give me at a time so that I
mhm,
can process it and integrate
mhm.
it. And then I'm able to write about it and share it with other people. And I just say now that every conversation I have with an animal is a learning opportunity.
Mhm,
And there's still a lot I don't know. But
mhm.
they certainly, in the last 13 years, have changed my understanding of reality. And I'm very grateful that they've shared their wisdom and continue to share their wisdom with me.
I understand that very well, Annie, because I had a horse that taught me for many, many years, and that also passed away, and I'm still in contact with her. So yeah, I understand what your experience might be.
Mhm.
Very good. Yeah. So the next question would be, what are the challenges of the people who use your service?
Okay, so I have a few different types of people who work with me. First of all, there's animal parents of living animals. And
Mhm,
so they might ask me to have a conversation with their animal if they're concerned about behaviour issues. And our
mhm,
animals are trying to communicate with us all the time. But if we don't know
mhm,
how to talk to them telepathically, which is what I
mhm,
do, then they have to rely on their facial expressions or body language or different vocalizations or changes in behaviour to tell
mhm,
us that something is wrong or that they need help with something or they're trying to give us an important message. And so,
mhm,
quite often, it's behaviour changes that people are concerned about. So, I ask, why have they changed the behaviour and what can the parents do to help them stop it? Now, really interestingly, the animals are so smart, they know if they change their bathroom behaviour, as I word it, where they go
Mhm.
to the bathroom, we will notice.
Yeah.
And they know that that will get our attention. Now, none of the animals I've spoken with who have changed their bathroom etiquette are doing it to deliberately be naughty. There's a message there. So one of the cats I spoke to who was doing it had been through a number of different foster agencies and homes before she finally got to her permanent family. And her mum went away for 2 weeks and didn't tell her that she was going or that she was coming back. And so this poor cat was really upset, stressing that she was never going to see mum again. Where was she
Mhm.
going to go next? Who was going to be looking after
Mhm.
her? So
Mhm.
that's, that was a sign of her stress and kind of letting mum know, please don't do that again.
Yeah.
And once mum got home, we had the conversation. She apologised to the cat, and now she tells her when she's going away, and that behaviour just stopped straight away. And our animals do understand the concept of time. So if you're going out and you do have an animal who does seem to suffer from separation anxiety, tell them what you're doing. They love
Mhm.
knowing what you're doing. They love being involved in your
Yeah.
world because
Yeah.
to them, you are their world.
I
But if
I
you
had
can,
I had that experience with a cat too. Like I went to
hmm,
the United States to do an apprenticeship and my cat ran away and she was really
yeah.
gone. Yeah, yeah. She was
Uh,
upset, she was gone and she hurt herself and that was a big lesson. Yeah,
Yep.
that was
So you can just say, look, I'm going to the shops, I'm going to buy dog food and dog treats, I'll be back in 2 hours. They
yeah.
know where you've gone, they know what you're doing, and they've heard you saying that you're coming back. And that just really cuts through their anxiety. Some of our animals are here, as you know, to be guardians. And
Mhm.
if we walk out the door, they feel as though they're going to fail because how can they protect us if they don't know where we are and what we're doing? So,
Mhm.
again, if we can let them know that, they can count down the time till we're back again. Or
Mhm.
if we're going away like you did to study or going on a holiday, we can say, look, I'm going to be away for 7 sleeps. This is the person who's going to be looking after you. Then I'll be home. They can
Mhm.
count down those 7 sleeps and they'll be ready waiting for you when you come back.
Yeah,
But at least they know that you're definitely coming back and
yeah.
why there's someone else in the house. Because animals understand everything that we say, it's just so important to keep having verbal conversations with them, even if we can't communicate telepathically, because they know exactly what we're saying, and that just really helps them understand more about what's happening with us. They can sense a lot, as you know, because they're so
Mhm.
sensitive to frequencies, and they can tell when we're starting to get sick or if we're upset, and they'll instinctively want to spend more time with us to help us heal and to help us feel better. And so, yeah, they're just so attuned to what's going on with us. And interesting because some of the conversations I've had with them, they tell me what's going on with their parents. And I've had
Mhm.
one cat mum say to me, my cat knows me better than I know myself. He was just so observant and understanding what was impacting her, and what she needed to do to be able to get out of the situation she was in. They're very constructive with their feedback. Sometimes people with living animals contact me because they're concerned about health issues for their animals and want to know, what does the animal want me to do to help them?
Mhm.
And they can explain that. Now, sometimes they're aware of deficiencies in their diets. And I was speaking with a dog yesterday who's got a number of health issues, and she told me that she needed collagen. And I've had a horse who told me that they needed antioxidants. And when I
Mhm.
told the mum of the horse that, she said, oh, that's really interesting. She has been getting antioxidants as a
Mhm.
supplement, but we ran out 3 weeks ago and she hadn't
Oh,
replaced
okay.
them. And the
Mhm.
horse could tell in that 3 weeks that they weren't in her diet. So it's fascinating finding that out. People are being more consciously awake now and more aware of the possibility that they've had soul connections with their animals, either in this lifetime, like a childhood pet who's reincarnated and come back to them, or whether it's an animal that they've had a soul relationship with in a past life. So I'm now getting more questions about what is our soul connection, or what details can you provide of past lives together. So that to me is really fascinating, because animals can recall their past lives in great detail.
That was something I wanted to ask you specifically about the reincarnation and how you can recognize it. And yeah, can you explain
Yep.
that?
Yeah, I will. Yep. So they're the kind of questions I get asked by parents of living animals, or things like, would they mind if the family gets another animal? Like they're happy to consult the animal and find out their thoughts on getting another animal, or moving house, going on holidays. There's so many different questions. Do the animals want to breed? Do they want to be a parent? So lots of questions. And I had to ask a female dog that, whether she wanted to breed. And yes, she did. And she'd been at a number of dog shows, and she'd already been checking out the male talent and knew who she wanted to be the father of her puppies. So you just don't know what's going on in their world till you actually ask them the questions. So they're some of the examples of questions I get asked for living animals. And then there's another lot of people that I help who have lost an animal, and it doesn't matter how old the animal was, whether they were well or unwell, whether it was something unexpected or it was something that we did know about if they had a terminal condition. The grief is still profound, and it's a really individual process. There's no sort of time limit on when you're supposed to have recovered from saying goodbye to an animal. And a lot of people may not have been there when their animal passed away and didn't get a chance to say goodbye, or they may not know why their animal passed. And animals do have good medical knowledge, so they can actually tell me what happened. So getting those answers can actually give people a lot of peace of mind. Some people carry a lot of guilt or regret or remorse that they didn't pick up earlier that there was something wrong with their animal, and they can blame themselves, thinking that, if they'd only known earlier, then their animal might have had a longer, better quality life. But sometimes it is something completely random. One of the dogs I spoke to had actually passed away from a blood clot. Now, he knew that was something random. There was nothing that his family could have done to prevent that. So he was not holding any grudges against them. And again, that just released so many emotions for them, knowing that the dog was at peace with why he passed, and they could then be at peace. Some people want to know, is their animal going to reincarnate? And I know that's one of the questions you wanted to ask. And I personally knew nothing about that till one of my cats let me experience it. And I'd never heard anything about it apart from the ancient Egyptians knowing all about it. And I didn't know why they knew about reincarnation and the preparation of the body for the next life, when a lot of other cultures don't seem to understand that. But I had one of my original animal communication teachers just suddenly passed away one morning, and it was a huge shock because she had no health issues. She hadn't been unwell, and she just suddenly screamed and passed away. And I did not know what was going on and why that had happened. At least I was in the unique position that I knew I would be able to connect with her on the other side when she was ready to talk to me. And she was able to talk to me on that same day. And so I said to her, "What did you do that for?" And she said, "Oh, I needed a new body." And I thought, "What?" And she said, "Stop being so sentimental. I'm coming back." Now, she'd been so accurate with everything she'd taught me that I just had to believe that she was telling me the truth. Now, interestingly, she'd been having some serious conversations with her cat brothers before she passed away, so they knew what she was doing. So they weren't pining, they weren't off their food, and they told me it was a temporary reprieve till she was back to boss them around again. And I was the one who was upset, so I just had to wait. And she told me what she was going to look like, and then she came home. And it's so interesting because when they come back, they've taught me it's a higher evolved aspect of the soul who reincarnates. So each lifetime that we're here on
Annie,
Earth.
okay, one question. I kind
Yep.
of understood that one of your teachers of animal communication passed away. So all
Yes.
the time I thought
An animal, a cat. Yes. So
oh,
she was a cat.
oh, not a human, a cat.
A cat, yes. So one of my original animal
Oh, sorry, I
communication
was on
cat
the wrong side.
teachers.
Okay,
That's
it's
all
a
right. Okay.
butterfly.
So she told me what she was going to look like in her new body. So I rang the breeder and just said, this is going to sound very weird, but you're going to have a kitten born who looks like this. And it's very important that she comes to me. And she did. And it's just so surreal when they come back because, you know, you've been mourning the physical presence of the animal who's gone and you just want to hold them again so much and see them again. And that's a really common question I get asked, just to tell the animals how much their humans love them and how much they'd give to be able to hug them again. And then they're back. And like
Mhm.
she just walked into the house, she knew her brothers, she knew where the food was served, she knew where the beds were, she knew me, knows the layout of the house. And it's as though they've just been away on this temporary holiday and had a full body makeover and they're back. Now, really interestingly, animals
So
rely very.
how any would somebody recognize that their cat that passed away is coming back in a new body? How would people feel that?
Some people are aware that there's something familiar about their current animal, but aren't aware that reincarnation happens. So usually you feel it on a heart level or a soul level. You might recognize the way that they walk or something in their eyes. Sometimes they look very similar when they come back. Sometimes they're completely different, particularly if they swap species. And that's happened a few times as well. But you do recognize something about them. But until you are aware that reincarnation happens, you don't really know. And so when I have the conversation with the animal in spirit, I can ask them, is it your destiny to reincarnate in this lifetime? And if it is, they can tell me if they've found a body to come back in. They have to negotiate to swap into a body. They don't have to swap in when that animal is conceived. So I've had a number of instances now where, particularly with rescue animals, they seem to reincarnate into a rescue animal body because they know that's who their humans would like to help. And some of them have been 3 years old. And so they have to negotiate with the soul in that body to swap out and go
Mhm.
back to the other side so that they can swap in and go to their human family again.
I don't get that. Who goes back
Okay,
to?
so if you've got a 3-year-old dog
Mhm.
that's at a rescue agency that hasn't been adopted by anyone, the
Okay.
soul of your cat or dog or whatever other animal it is in spirit can talk to that dog and ask them if they would mind swapping out of that soul, swapping out of the body, and their soul goes back to heaven, and the soul of your animal swaps into that body to come back to you.
Oh, I haven't heard about that before. Okay.
So they're very obliging the way that they do that because they know how important it is for animals to get back to their families. My understanding now is that we must have some very long soul contracts with animal souls because I know
Mhm.
now so many that have had multiple lifetimes with their humans, either in this lifetime or past lifetimes. And knowing that your animal is coming back just changes the grief process.
So,
Yes, another.
so could be that the animal comes back, but it doesn't come back into the same house. It comes back maybe into a neighboring country, and you have to go on a search or so, and it gives you signs or. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you, Marissa. I'm in a conversation. We talk, all right? Um, and there's kind of like a detective searching for this animal until you find it. Did you?
Well, when I ask them the questions, they can tell me what species they're going to be, what breed, what colour, what gender. Sometimes they can tell me the time frame to when to start to look for them, how old they'll be, and sometimes even a specific place they'll be. So I had a cat in the UK who told me the specific rescue agency that Mum would find him in. So it really varies. So they don't just necessarily turn up on your door. Sometimes you've got to search. So you might have to look at rescue agencies or
Yeah.
different places to find them, but they can give that information. And so what I do now is when I have that information, I tell the parents, they start looking, and when they find photos of prospective animals, they send them to me, and then I can either check, has the soul already swapped into that body, or is that the body that the soul is going to swap into? Sometimes our animals wait till we've actually found the right body before they swap in, just to make sure that they're definitely coming home to us. They find a way to get back to us. So people worry that they might miss out and their animal might go to another family. But if something happens, and sometimes it does, that the process doesn't go ahead for a variety of reasons, they will find another animal to swap into so that they can come back to you. I've got a
That,
few people I know where the same animal soul aspect has been in 3 successive animals with them in this lifetime.
mm-hmm,
So they've been with them, they've passed over, they've come back, they've passed over, they've come back. It's
mm-hmm,
just incredible that that can
mm-hmm,
happen. But I suspect that these are animals that are particularly helping us with our life purpose and our soul lessons. And some of
mm-hmm,
these animals have had lives with us in the past as well. And they might have had a human lifetime with us, or they may have had an animal lifetime with us. So, again, as you said, it's like being a detective and working out,
mm-hmm,
how are the souls connected?
mm-hmm,
And then that just explains a lot more about why we feel so strongly connected to some animals,
mm-hmm,
because on a subconscious level and a soul level, we recognize that there's a bond there, but consciously we're not aware of the lives that we've had with them. And
mm-hmm,
so that's a lot of my work, is finding out for bereaved animal parents, is their animal coming back and what messages are there from their animals. Animals can also give us guidance, whether they're living or in spirit, because they know what our life purpose is and what our soul lessons are, so they
mm-hmm.
can teach us. And
Yeah,
then
that's what, yeah, that's a big part. That's a big part of my work. That's where my
yes,
work focuses on. Like, what do animals teach us, and how do they guide us, and how do we understand their messages and guidance? Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
And then I also help people who want to learn how to telepathically communicate with their
Mm-hmm,
own animals, living and in spirit. And once
mm-hmm,
you can talk telepathically to your animals, then you can talk to any animal, domestic or wild. They just universally understand that. So,
yeah, the same
so
experience.
that's all the different kind of people that I help. And then I offer free masterclasses every month online, talking about all sorts of different topics to do with being an animal parent. And yeah, I just love deepening the relationship between animals. Just asking one question can change the dynamics of a relationship. But for people listening today, I would encourage you just to verbally go and tell your animal that you love them and you're grateful that they're with you. They know that you do love them, but hearing you saying it verbally, they're very high frequency words, love and gratitude, and our animals are very sensitive to frequencies. And I've had people tell me, I watched your program. I went and spoke to my dog and told him I loved him. He looked at me differently afterwards.
Mm-hmm,
They they do understand it, and it's really empowering for them, knowing that they understand what you're saying. And then you can just have a running conversation verbally with your animals, and they don't care what you're talking about. They just love listening to you and knowing what's going on.
mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Annie. You have already answered a lot of the questions that I put down here. So one more thing I want to ask you is that you have a mission to raise the global consciousness about animals. And I have the same mission. So what is your focus there? What do you wish for people to understand about animals?
Yes. So, yes, my global purpose is to raise awareness about the importance of animals. So, I want people to understand that animals have souls. Now, at the moment, there's a lot of countries around the world who have not legislated that animals are sentient beings. and it actually affects welfare legislation if animals are considered sentient beings or not. If they're
Mm-hmm.
not, they're classified as property, and the
Mm-hmm.
welfare laws don't protect them as much. They don't have as much power. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see all the countries around the world recognise that animals are sentient beings and then have legislation change to help enhance protection for them.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to know that they understand what we say, because a lot of people don't know that yet. And I've had people say, oh, it's a dog, it knows no and it knows walk, and that's about it.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
profound two-way conversations with them. Their vocabularies are extensive, and we
yeah,
see that in the mentorship program I do as well, with the words that they use answering the questions. Some of them are words we don't use in common day language now, but they're
yeah,
words that our animals are familiar with from
yeah,
eras in the past that they lived in. And
yeah,
some of the words which I haven't heard of, I look up and they're in the dictionary, but we just don't use them now. So it's
yeah.
just so interesting seeing
Yeah,
what
I
they
have
know.
the same experience about language with animals. Yeah, that there's certain words are
Yeah,
so really astonishing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So they also feel emotions like we do, and
Mm-hmm.
that there's no coincidence that an animal comes into your life. So, like with you having the spirit animals there and the messages they're sending you, or if you see an animal or the name of an animal comes up in something that you're reading, there's messages there about why.
Yeah,
The animal's presence has come to your attention and what they're trying to help you with. So they're all the things that I want to help change
yeah,
awareness of, so that people value their animals and know that there's a reason that they're together, and often behind the scenes their animal is actually helping them, and they can
yeah.
be completely unaware of that, whether it's with health issues or doing their spiritual guidance or guardian role, protecting them. There's so many things that they can do that impact our lives that a lot of
And
people
sometimes
aren't
it's
consciously aware of.
sometimes it's misunderstandings. It's like you misunderstand their behavior as something rebellious or annoying when it really is a hint to healing or to something really good. Yeah, I find
Yes,
that's
that,
really
that
important.
yeah, they're trying to tell us something important. I had one cat I had a conversation with because he was being very vocal, and he was also exhibiting the changed bathroom behaviour, and mum wanted to know why he was being so vocal and what was happening with the bathroom behaviour. He was trying to tell mum who he was. He was a soul that she'd known as a human, and he'd
Mm-hmm.
come back in a cat body to
Mm-hmm.
be with his mum. And then once she understood that,
Mm-hmm.
then he could relax and go back to his normal behaviour and not vocalise as much, because his
Yeah.
message had been heard and mum knew who he was. So again, it's really interesting finding out why they're actually with us.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Annie, I wanna wrap this up, and I
Mhm.
ask you as a final question, how can people reach you? Or what is your offer, or how can they make the first step to connect with you
Yep.
with you?
The easiest way is to email me, and that's chintuitive@bigpond.com. Or
Mhm,
you can send a message through my website, which is
mhm, mhm,
cosmicheartintuitive.com.au. They're the
mhm,
easiest ways. I didn't mention before, but I've actually published 3 books.
mhm,
And for listeners in Australia, you can contact me via email or through the website, and I can post the books to you.
mhm,
For people outside Australia, the books are available from Amazon.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
So I would just like to let people know that if they have lost an animal, my most recent book, Crossing the Bridge to Animal Consciousness, Animal Soulology, which is a word that I made up,
mhm,
I particularly wrote to support people who have had to say goodbye to an animal. So I talk about the soul journeys that our animals take. Our animals can come back for energetic visits, so you can see or hear or feel your animal when they come back. So I've got some interesting stories about that, but a lot of real life stories about reincarnation. So the journeys from heartbreak to happiness, when
mhm,
people have said goodbye to their animal, but we've had a conversation, we've discovered that they're coming back. and then the stories of the reunions when they come back again. I just really want people to understand that although the physical presence of their animal has gone, their soul endures forever. So we can always connect with our animals. It doesn't matter how long ago they passed away. And also to give people hope that if it's our animal's destiny to return, they can come back and have another lifetime with us.
Thank you, Annie. That was so rich. There was so much information, also new information for me that I hadn't heard about yet. So thank you for this interview. And yes, to all the people out there, you know about Annie's work now. You know how to how you can contact her. And I think the right people will listen to you, and they will find you, because that's something I observe in animals too, that they guide us to the right people.
Yes.
And
And so if people would like to inquire about having a conversation with their animal, living or in spirit, or interested in enrolling in the mentorship program, if you can use the code Spirit Animal in the email header, then I will send you a book of your choice as a bonus for enrolling in one of those sessions to thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eddie.